good analogy to compare government to religion. It's not an analogy. It is a religion. It has a superhuman government that has rights that mortals don't. It issues commands, and if you disobey, you're a sinner, and you deserve to be punished. It doesn't play by the rules of mortals.
Hey yo, I ride slump when I bump, then anarchist hardcore pump, pistol grip pump in the trunk. Don't give a fuck if a pig throw on his leg. Shit, I study natural law, bitch. I know my rights. I'ma fight for liberty and justice, cause no, I don't trust this corrupted system of globalist muppets whose authority only exists to these foolish bastards. Only answer to the one I don't serve to masters. Stupid asses, parrot in the party line, dumb enough to still fall for the left-right paradigm. Blind by their slogans, the party sets the stage. Choosing a ruler every 4 years don't make you any less a slave. Play term after term, time after time. A vicious cycle, the blind leading the blind. Too weak in the mind to see the design of their own prison. Well, there ain't no fool in this one. Fuck the whole system, man. Fuck government, come on. Yo, fuck government, fuck government. Say what? Fuck government, fuck government, yeah. Fuck government, fuck the government. Each and every one of them. Fuck government, come on. Yo, fuck government, fuck government. Say what? Fuck government, fuck government, yeah. Fuck government.
Days passed, months passed, a year passed, and the plantation continued to operate as before. Sometimes Mr. Jones was in charge, sometimes Mr. Johnson was in charge, but the day-to-day routine stayed exactly the same. The workers worked hard, long hours every day, and still had little to show for it. Every day the meeting would begin with them all reciting the Jones Plantation motto, "We work together as free men for our mutual benefit, pledging our allegiance to the Jones Plantation, which stands for prosperity, liberty, and justice for all." One day Mr. Smith announced, "Samuel is asked to say a few words this morning, and whatever the rest of us may think of his ideas and opinions, we are all free here, and that means we are all allowed to speak our minds. So, Samuel, you have 2 minutes. Begin." Samuel stepped forward, looking scared. "I was excited when all this started," he began, glancing nervously at Mr. Smith and Mr. Jones. "But don't you all see what's happened here? Nothing has changed. We're all still slaves." There were grumbles of disagreement from the crowd. "They tell us what to do and whip us if we don't. They still make all the rules and punish us if we disobey. They let us make suggestions and complain about things, but they never really change anything. They let us choose between Mr. Jones and Mr. Johnson, but what's the difference? The situation stays the same. We do all of the work and they take as much as they want and decide how much they'll let us keep. They live in luxury, made rich by the cotton we pick. We do all the work and have to build our own huts, grow our own food, and take care of ourselves. They leave us just enough that we don't revolt or run away. This is not freedom. We're all still slaves. They've only changed the words they use, but nothing else has changed. They say we're all free and equal, but we're not. They command and we obey. That's not freedom. That's not equality. They say we're free to leave, but all that means is that we're free to be someone else's slave. Why should we work or obey the rules? We didn't agree to this. They made the system. They forced it on us. They control and rob us and call it freedom. They've deceived you into thinking that being able to choose which slave master you'll work for is the same as being free. It's not. Open your eyes. If you keep what you produce, they call it stealing. When they take what you produce, they call it sharing and fair distribution. Can't you see that this is all? Your time is up, Samuel," Mr. Smith announced calmly. At his gesture, 2 supervisors grabbed Samuel by the arms and led him to the whipping post. "I'm sorry, Samuel, but you've broken the rules. There are rules against encouraging others not to work and encouraging others to break the rules. You're only hurting all of us with your discontentment and your complaining and your disobedience." The whip fell, and Samuel let out a grunt. "Without rules, without order, all would be lost. Without law, there would be chaos. We can't just behave as wild animals, each doing whatever he pleases. We must all follow the plan and all do our duty for the betterment of everyone. And those who do not must be punished." The whip fell again, and blood flowed freely from Samuel's back. "Samuel, it is you who are stealing from the others. When you don't do your assigned work, you are making more work for others. When you disobey the rules, it is you who are endangering the future of everyone else here. You are the thief. You are the criminal. You are the one trying to destroy the arrangement that keeps us all safe and prosperous." At every lash of the whip, the other workers cheered louder and louder, some yelling curses at Samuel. "Being spoiled and selfish, you complain about everything, talking as if you're oppressed. But you are the one ruining things. You are the one keeping us from being all we could be. It is your greed and your rebelliousness that is hurting all of us. They all play by the rules," Mr. Smith said, gesturing at the others. "What makes you think that you don't have to? You think you're above the law?" There were loud yells of agreement as the whip fell again. "We must maintain order," Mr. Smith proclaimed, "to make this plantation great, to make it so that we can all be happy and prosperous. To have the society we want, there have to be rules. We all have to contribute our fair share to this great endeavor, and we cannot tolerate actions and attitudes that seek to undermine the amazing things that together as free men we have achieved and will continue to achieve." Mr. Jones was smiling as he gave Mr. Smith a pat on the back. The crowd was cheering so loudly that none of them had noticed that Samuel had died.
You know, there's a few pieces of work out there that just make the case so completely, blatantly clear about what is real and what is fake and what is a lie and what is a superstition and what is truth. And I think Larken might be responsible for more of those works than just about anybody else that I have met. Welcome to the show, Larken and Amanda Rose. Good to have you guys.
Thanks so much for having us.
Welcome.
There's several works, right? Most Dangerous Superstition, Jones Plantation, The Tiny Dot, When Should You Shoot a Cop? And I'm sure chat is going to pop off with a whole long list of things that I've forgotten, but you have created some extremely powerful, clarifying works. And I just want to thank you for the work that you do, first of all. So it's amazing.
Well, thank you. It feels weird to say, but it's honest that I feel like my job and my duty in this world is to state the bleeding obvious in a way that any idiot can understand it. And it kind of feels odd that that's something that needs doing, but it seems to need doing pretty often. So
it's like you said, it's like it feels weird for it to be like, people say is liberty like your passion, and it's like, well, not nearly the only thing we're about, because if the attacks on liberty weren't a problem in the world, there's so many other things we would all be doing, and us too, especially. We're musicians first, for example, and we would do a lot more of that. And so it feels weird to say that right now, or so much of our life, the focus, at least for him especially, but especially for me now, has been, okay, undo this crappy problem, which is this belief, because it is like saying, my job is just to convince the world 2 + 2 does equal 4.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like that should be what our focus is about, but it has to be.
And the reason it's such a challenge is because massive amounts of time and effort and money have gone into making people not recognize that 2 + 2 is still 4. And so it's all the stuff I do is basically to tell people, yeah, 2 + 2 is still 4, despite what you heard all your life and what you still hear on the news.
And painting beautiful pictures that tell the story very clearly. The Tiny Dot is a great example of just sort of like showing such an obvious reality of the numbers disparity between the people and the rulers. Or, like the Jones Plantation, fantastic work. The Most Dangerous Superstition, describing it as a superstition, couching it in sort of the semi-religious terms, really fits so well that it just makes it an easy discussion to have. A lot of people are getting taken down right now. So I think Free Thought Project just got taken down. Josh Sigerson lost his YouTube channel, I believe. Dollar Vigilante looks like it's about to get taken down. So for the time being, I guess let me just have a quick aside on this channel. We've had a long list of videos demonetized and taken and outright deleted by YouTube recently. We have, I think, about 56,000 subs on the YouTube channel right now. And I was thinking, man, it would just really be nice. It would just really be nice to just delete this channel, sort of give Google the finger, and then go publish to the channels that, you know, we don't have to watch what we say and what we talk about. But then, you know, I was talking to my producer, and he's like, you know, that it's probably not a smart move necessarily, because, you know, there's 56,000 connections that you've built there, an audience that you've built. Right. And so, like, I just want to tell people what we're about to do so they don't think that, like, so they don't think something else happened. I'm going to sort of sanitize the YouTube channel. I'm going to go and delete the questionable videos, and we're going to just start posting commercials to this channel that forward people over to the free platform so they can start seeing all the content there. We're going to sanitize it, number one, because Google is coming for us. And I don't want to lose the connection with the audience that we have here, since, you know, for whatever reason, we can't necessarily get people to stop watching on YouTube and go follow, you know, watch on the other platforms as much. So until people are ready to do that, we're going to try and maintain the presence on YouTube. This seems like, you know, the best of both worlds solution. We're gonna make it harder for them to take it down, and we're also going to start using this platform to forward people to the free platforms for the actual content. So this may be one of the last full-length videos you see on YouTube that isn't just sort of a teaser to go watch something elsewhere. And if you have any better ideas than that, you know, let us know in the comments, and we'll definitely check those out. I just wanted to let people know what we were about to do here. Okay. With that said, you have a big announcement for a project that I think you're trying to get funding for, and the funding window is almost complete. Can you tell us about what you're doing?
We have 10 days left in the first 30 days of our Indiegogo campaign. It's a flexible thing, so if we don't make it in time, the world doesn't come to an end. It's not like Kickstarter, where if you don't get all the way to the goal, everything falls apart and explodes. But our goal is to raise our dream amount is 125 grand to make a real, not me with the camcorder, a real full-length feature film directed by somebody who knows how to actually direct those things, and who has the connections to people to actually do it right and make an actual full-length feature film out of the Jones Plantation, which you just saw a clip of. And as I've been saying all over the place now, I wish it was my idea, but it wasn't. Andrew, the director, who we've had a bunch of planning meetings with now, he's the one who originally interviewed me down in Mexico, and we had a fun talk and for a different thing they were doing. And then he actually was going through my stuff and contacted me and said, this should sort of be a movie. And I was like, yeah, it sort of should. Why didn't I ever think of that? And to me, the beauty of it is that it's so, there is no reason for it to scare anybody away. Political left, right, or in the middle, or people who don't think about that. Like the fictional story presents the ideas in such a way that it's not preachy, it's not in your face, because it's just telling a story and basically showing the nature of power-happy sociopaths in a completely believable way, and a more thorough way than I've ever seen any movie do it. And way more thorough than the animated one can even do it.
And what's clever about the Jones Plantation, too, that we both noticed immediately, which is why he says he's pissed he didn't think of it first, is because more so than the Iron Web, more so than your other stories, it's both things. It's obvious in a way that you can kind of portray it to the public in a way that they're going to very clearly see the parallels to what's going on right now with governments, and especially the U.S. government. But it isn't a punch in the face on its entry, where like the Iron Web is, you know, self-ownership and, you know, against all government, kind of obviously in a way that wouldn't be palatable to the general public. Whereas the Jones Plantation is 100% that sort of Trojan horse, the same way that Candles in the Dark is just asking people questions without entering into it anything you believe, and they arrive at their own cognitive dissonance through the questions you ask. This movie is sort of the sliding under the door the cognitive dissonance that they're just going to smash into, and they're not going to see it coming. The movie, in the way that it's presenting itself, is going to look like something every American in one way or another would want to go see or could relate to in some way, in that it's just going to look like, oh, an interesting, maybe unique looking film of a story about a slave plantation in the South. Okay, we can go watch that. That's safe. That's removed from here and now. And then they get in and start watching it, and very quickly their brain's going to figure out this is not at all removed from the here and now.
Yeah. By itself, it's actually going to be like a movie that's exciting and stuff. There's only so much you can jam into a 12-minute animated little thing. When you have a whole movie, you can really flesh out the characters and the plot, and a bunch of stuff happens that doesn't happen in the animated version. So it will be, something that just, like a lot of good movies, is like, wow, that was exciting and fun and interesting, and now I'm like thinking about stuff. Like, to have it do both, it has to be both, because if it's like boring, people don't care, they don't spread it around, they don't think about anything. But it's such a perfect vehicle to give them, truths that at the end they're just not going to be able to miss. Even in the animated version, some people are like, oh, that was a complaint against capitalism and stuff. And it's like, okay, we're going to make sure that nobody can make all the weird mistakes that people made watching the animated one. It's going to be glaringly obvious, but it doesn't have to say it. It never mentions today.
Without being preachy, right. There's a
days.
difference between making something obvious. That's the genius about good storytelling, obviously. You make something obvious to the person psychologically, but not preachy. So it doesn't sound like, this is clearly, somebody somewhere's, little diatribe they're going on using this movie. And like, that's not what the Jones Plantation is either. So it just, people are going to go, oh, this is relatable, I want to watch it. And then, they're going to be doing the thing a week later of being at the grocery store shopping for something, and their brain's like, oh.
Oh, that's what that meant.
You know what it's going to hit right now? It's going to be the masks. Like, I actually thought when I was clipping that section of the Jones Plantation animation for the intro to the show, I thought about just spoofing it. I have so much stuff that I'm doing right now, I just had no time to do it. But I thought about putting masks on all the little people's faces and then doing a voiceover where, at the end when he's like, you're making us all less safe by threatening, our effectively social contract or whatever. That is all happening in real time right now with the mask issue. So you could take this sort of story, this rubric, and just copy paste it so many times over the last 2 years of random narcissistic, insane crap the government has done to make the same point over and over again from like 17 different directions.
Absolutely.
I am super excited about this project. I've said that so many times about stuff that you're working on, like the mirror, but I'm super excited about this. And I have the campaign pulled up here. Let me hide us for a second so I can show you guys. So this is the Indiegogo campaign to fund this project. In only a couple weeks, it has gone from $0 to almost $24,000. Their goal is $125,000. Can you maybe talk us through those numbers and what the plans are for this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the deal is, for 125, we could do it, the way we really wanted to. Now, if it goes way over that and people get really interested, we can do it better. We can start to think about getting actors that, have some name recognition and face recognition and all that, and things like that. But basically, that amount is like, we know we can make basically a perfect movie for that. And it doesn't have to be that much for it to get made. If you scroll down, you don't need to now, but if you scroll down, it breaks it down into pre-production and, post-production, which includes editing and stuff. And
the costs of everything.
So our goal right now, because it's a flexible campaign, it starts with 30 days, but it can keep going. We can add another 30 days or whatever.
So there's not a time limit, really.
But if we raise like 30 or 50 grand, we can get into production. We can get the screenplay done. I've been frantically working on it. I couldn't stop myself because it's way too fun to write. But that's with zero funding. I'm like,
he's over halfway done already.
Halfway done the screenplay. But we could produce the thing and get it in the can, and then, by then either we will have also raised the funds to do post-production and editing and all that fun stuff, or we can then focus on that. But at this point, we're pretty dang confident this thing is going to happen, even though, if you look at the scale, well, they're only this percentage of the way to the goal. Yep, that's true. But we're very close to the point where we can say, yep, for sure, this is going to happen. We're going to make this happen. Of course, the more resources we have, the easier it is to make it exactly the way we want to make it. We don't know for sure where it's going to be shot. We're talking about maybe Puerto Rico. The director knows about the tax breaks you get for making movies in different places. Apparently Georgia's kind of good, so we may do cotton plantation in Georgia. We may do sugarcane plantation in Puerto Rico. Depends on budget, depends if anybody can actually leave the country by then. But, well, Puerto Rico's it's a possession, so maybe it's easier to get there. I don't think I know, but who knows what they're going to do before that. Yeah. But the point is, right now we're raising the funds to figure out exactly what we can do. But at this point, just with the support we've gotten so far, I'm very confident this thing is actually going to happen. And obviously, the more support we get, the better it's going to be.
Yes.
But and I've already declared, I've done the thing that you should never do, and I always do, which is I've already declared if the difference between it happening and not happening is I don't get paid anything to do my part of it, then I'm going to do my part of it for free. And she has to hit me for that.
We can't let that happen. We have to make sure that you get paid. Yes.
We're not, yeah. Well, and the thing is 125, the reason partly that's a number is like that's enough to, as Andrew, our director friend who's really doing all the movie side of this stuff, as he would say, it's like that's enough to do it well, and still actually profit on it and make something, but do it well. And that's, most people know that 125K is nothing for a movie budget and for a full feature-length film that we are trying to make Hollywood quality. So it's sort of like Andrew came to us in February and he was like, hey, I have all these connections. I'm in film and I'm a director and, I have access to one of the things that most people don't know about is just getting access to a camera that makes a film look like a Hollywood film. So like if you get access to a red, then you have access to that. And, he's like, well, I have, access to this crew and this person. I have access to somebody that, has a red, for this amount of money. And I've got
$40,000 drone.
And a $40,000 drone. And I have access to this and I know this. And then you guys have your connections in the community. So it's like, we know people like, he was just in Thrive, too, the second documentary done by Foster Gamble. And we know the Gambles, and Kimberly and Foster have a lot of influence in the Liberty community and network. In the network, and we can talk to them and say, hey, here's the project we're doing. So they have their reach. And so we just know that this is going to happen one way or another because the money and the support is there in the community. We just have to get enough people together on this. And then, we have the other things we're dreaming about. Then there's the next level dream, and it may not happen, but it's like, what if, we got Woody Harrelson by some weird stroke of luck and he's declared himself to be an anarchist, and what if he got a whiff of this project through some connections through the grapevine, or what if Wesley Snipes could play Mr. Smith, who's going to be a black guy.
Oh, by the way, spoiler, as you may not have heard, Mr. Smith in the movie is going to be a black guy, a former slave, complete sociopath, former slave who learned well from his owner before his owner ceased to be. But Andrew and I both decided that would be a fun little twist to sort of creep people out. And it causes fun tension between him and Mr. Jones, because Mr. Jones is like, why is a black guy bossing me around?
And he's like this next level psychotic, narcissistic, well-dressed, smooth-talking dude carrying a snake around his freaking neck. And we were like, Wesley Snipes. Man.
Yeah, that would be my ultimate dream.
Kill that role.
Wesley Snipes is Mr. Smith and Woody Harrelson is Mr. Jones. Obviously, we're just ridiculously...
You have an easy foot in the door, like you've both been in jail for tax stuff, so...
Yeah, for the exact same thing.
Well, for the same thing, because what's fun about this is he's getting Sherry Peel Jackson in on this to do what part? She's going to narrate?
She's the narrator. She's, if you don't know, she's former IRS. Did you meet her at Anarchapulco? She was at her last one.
I did.
So her and Wesley Snipes and Larken are the three people, in U.S. history who have been put in federal prison for the misdemeanor willful failure to file, which was illegal by the federal government.
As far as I know, we're the only three who ever did federal time for misdemeanors. It may not, I haven't all the way checked, but...
So part of it is obviously the poeticness of having Woody and Snipes and Larken and Sherry
that would
all
be sort of
involved
fun.
in
But also, he'd
film.
just be awesome. Wesley would be...
Wesley was actually a great actor.
The most important character by far in this movie is Mr. Smith. because like in the animated one, it's only, it's kind of superficial and it's short, but we really get into we really give the audience a view of both sides of the Jekyll and Hyde. They get the slaves' view of, oh, here comes our great emancipator to tell us that we're all free and all these awesome things and blah, blah, blah. And then you get the behind closed doors discussions between Mr. Smith and Mr. Jones to see the way they really think and the way they calculate and the way they, do these nasty things. And I think it's going to be just gut-wrenchingly disturbing for people to watch the slaves fall for it when the viewer knows, but no, how could you fall for that? So that by the end, everyone's like, we fell for the exact same thing.
It's going to be one of those really peeling back the curtains on the actual inside of the mind of how these people think, but how it's so obvious that this is how they really think if you really stop blinding yourself to the behavior and the what it really is going on. So it's like the Jones Plantation is going to play that out and just spell it out for the audience, but it's going to use Mr. Smith as the way to be like, this guy is government. Like when you get that these are what the control freaks really had to construct, this is how they had to think, this is what they had to do. And then you look at how the world looks and how government does things, and then it literally people are just going to go, oh, whoa, because it's going to hit them.
Sovereign Dirt said, I hope they include a section including the henpecked man as the state becomes a provider. No, there's something else. Hold on, let me find it. Livewire said, I hope you add a part where the slaves elect one of their own, only to have him corrupted by the plantation owners.
That's hysterical. Literally today, I added to the script, a slave decides to run as third party. He doesn't call it third party in the movie. But yes, literally, it's I thought we got.
He added that today to the script.
That was today. That was like, I bet we can wedge that in.
So, way to be telepathic, Livewire.
Remco says Mr. Smith's first name has to be Sam, so that someone can refer to him as Uncle Sam.
What's funny is
if any of you have any other questions, go ahead and get them in chat. Maybe start your question with the word question so that I don't miss them as they go by. And then, I'll come back and we'll have a question round here at the end. My question is, I'm dying to know, how, so at the end, how are you going to connect the story of, because these people, the normies have this void that you talk about in your Candles in the Dark seminar. Where they're going to watch this story and they are not going to see the connection at all unless, I guess, you hold their hand in some way. So I'm curious, how you plan to sort of connect at the end the story to real life and the government and that whole thing.
Take it, Larken.
A lot of it is in the script writing of the whole thing to walk them through it. But yeah, at the end, and talking to Andrew, we both immediately said, Samuel has to die. Samuel has to die. We're not going to, and a happy ending, and they all believed in freedom and blah, blah, blah. But I also said, but we want something positive and happy. It has to be just devastatingly, traumatic and kind of depressing that Samuel dies to the cheers of his fellow slaves. He has to frickin' die. And we both were like, that can't change. That changes. It has to be that strong to wake people up. But, and I'm trying to decide how much to say of this, there is a happy light. It is a devastating and happy ending at the same time. I'm not exactly going to say how. I am going to say that the narrator fills in a piece that you didn't know throughout the whole movie, that gives some hope and also kind of does the thing of filling in the sort of big picture thing about here's the nature of reality and how things have always been. And, there are the people who did do this, and there's the people who they hurt. And so we fill that in partly at the end, but a lot of it has to do with bits and pieces of the script as you're going along, where one of the funnest interplays is between Mr. Smith and Mr. Jones, because Mr. Jones is just old school. I own slaves if they disobey me. One of my underlings hits them with a whip.
He's the brute tyrant, and he represents the old school way that authoritarianism looked, like feudalism and the just beat people thing. And then Mr. Smith is our stand-in for the new world of psychological control.
Yeah. And so Mr. Jones is he's kind of oblivious as Mr. Smith says, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And Mr. Jones is like, what's even going on? So the brute tyrant learns along the way, oh, that's how you do it, so you actually get away with it. And so meanwhile, the audience is noticing that too. And that gives a lot of opportunity to show people examples that they can't miss the parallels of Mr. Smith explaining, the way you would do it is this, and here's the problem with it. And you're going to have uprisings and you're going to have disobedience. We're going to do it like this. And I like to, in the script, I like to always keep Mr. Jones like a step or two behind. He never quite knows he's totally outwitted by Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith is the master of everything there because nobody else can really keep up with him. He's an evil psycho, but he's also really damn smart. And to watch Mr. Jones try to keep up with him, I decided that very early on, like Mr. Smith talks to Mr. Jones for like 10 minutes, and then there's a friggin' riot going on out in the yard. And Mr. Jones just, basically, Mr. Smith grabbed Mr. Jones and basically says, whatever I do, you don't contradict me. This is sort of in the animated one. And then he goes out and starts giving a speech saying, you're all free. I just bought this plantation and you're all free. And Mr. Jones is like, what? And Mr. Jones does the thing of he turns around and immediately goes into venomous screaming in his face mode of, quietly screaming.
Oh, you mean Mr.
like
Smith
Mr. Smith is full sociopath. So he turns around to Mr. Jones and just goes, shut up, I'm saving your neck. And then turns around, oh, my friends, blah, blah, blah. But the interplay between Smith and Jones gives a lot of opportunity for him to just, for him to show and explain why, if you want to control your slaves and maximize their productivity, make them think this, make them perceive things differently. And he in an actual movie, you can go into great obvious detail of just how much you can do that and how confident Mr. Smith is that he's like, I can fix this problem. I can make them feel this. I can make them think this. And then 2 weeks from now, they're going to do this. And as it goes along, it happens. Mr. Jones is like, whoa, it keeps working. And so hopefully the audience is also going to be, whoa, it keeps working. And also, it keeps working. And now I'm starting to see the stuff that's worked on me, too.
Mr. Smith is this character that comes in and he owns the place because he walks in like, I know what I'm doing. I'm the guy that everything I do, every time I do it works. And I can walk in and talk to this plantation owner, even though I'm the black guy, like I own his ass and know what I'm doing. And he kind of has that whole vibe. And Mr. Jones is very much like, the old school kind of dumb brute. And he's just, there's a conversation that takes place very early on that is going to kind of rush the audience right through the gauntlet uncomfortably, which is, Mr. Smith is like, you see them as animals, don't you? And Mr. Jones, the old school plantation owner, is like, excuse me. And he's like, you do. You see them as, you view the slaves, you view them as animals, right? Something that you can just abuse and do whatever to or hit and tell them what to do and then they'll just obey. And then he's like, oh, okay, so if you're one of those, abolitionists that's come here to help me see the error of my ways, there's been a misunderstanding here because he thinks that's where Mr. Smith is going.
So for 10 seconds, the audience gets to think, oh, Mr. Smith is a good guy.
And then Mr. Smith is like, because, they're not animals, they're human beings. And then he goes in to say, animals don't understand what you mean if you say, if you don't produce for me, I'm going to kill you next week. An ox doesn't get that. So you have to stand there and keep hitting the ox. But then he goes on to describe how humans are more complex and they have reasoning and, free will. And so they have this ability that animals don't. And so they're more complex. But if you understand that, humans are the most useful and can be the easiest livestock, and he calls them that, to manage. And he calls himself, Mr. Smith, and says, that's not my real name, but I call myself Mr. Smith because I'm a smith, the same way a blacksmith is a smither of iron because he molds iron. I mold slaves into the best form of, human livestock that they can be. And he says, and he pulls the snake from around his neck kind of a thing. And he uses the snake as an analogy. And he's like,
hey, don't give away.
The snake. No, this is literally in every one of our interviews. This is part of the script. We tell people he's joking. We can actually say this because we say this in multiple
interviews.
The snake analogy is one of the parts of the movie we're sharing free to the public. But one of the parts of the script is he's totally pulls the snake down, and he goes, if I grab this snake around the neck tight, it's going to snap its head around and try and bite me. But if I just let it move forward across my hands, and I put one hand in front of the other like this, he's like, the snake totally has this illusion of freedom because it can move. It feels free to move, and it keeps going forward. And I just keep putting one hand in front of the other, and the slave and the snake just keeps thinking it can keep going, and it eventually just kind of goes, well, I feel like I'm free to move, and I'm moving, but I'm not getting anywhere. And just after a while, it starts to get tired and confused, and then sort of complacent, and just wears out. And he's like, people are the same way. Those slaves out there are the same way. You
give them the illusion of something they can do until they get worn out and they're just calm and confused and tired.
And don't clutch them like you're trying to trap them from getting away. Hold them loosely and give them the illusion that they've got freedom of activity and movement, even though they don't. Yippee.
And then make the snakes scared of each other and control them by making them think that they're being, good by wearing masks to save their fellow snakes. Anyway.
Yeah, we do all that. There's even a parallel to the stupid COVID thing. It's not a disease. That would be a little bit too obvious. But it's a totally made up thing for them to all be scared about and focused on.
Yes.
To distract their focus away from something else that the control freaks didn't want them thinking about too much. So I even throw in that parallel. That may be one that a lot of people won't notice because it's enough of a disconnected, but a lot of it's going to be just way too in your face for people to not notice. Oh, this. And Mr. Smith just openly talks about the fact that, this art form has been around forever of how to manage and control people. And the fact that most people don't know about it and don't use it. Most slave owners treat their slaves like animals and then wonder why they have mediocre results. But he just openly talks about the fact that, there have been people studying this for centuries, and there totally have. So he gets to say that, and it's going to be kind of hard for anyone watching it to not go, oh, and they're probably still doing that.
For people that are going to wonder, what's the explanation for Mr. Smith? What's the explanation for how he knows that this is a long-known art form and that this has been going on forever?
That we're not giving away.
Yeah, and you do find out later.
Backstory, I'm not giving away.
Folks in the comments says, shit, don't tell us the whole story. Oh, wait, we're literally living it.
Yeah, no.
You're literally living it anyway.
So are you going for a full, I don't know, what, hour and a half movie, 45 minutes, the 3 hours? What are you?
Hour and a half, full-length feature film. Which oddly is surprisingly short a script because I'm used to writing novels, which are 8 times as long as a movie. On the bright side, there will be no filler in this movie. It's not I have to fill up the runtime. It's we have to pack it down to make it concentrated goodness and keep it to somewhere around 90. It doesn't have to be exactly 90, but yeah, it's going to be a full-length feature film. And there's so much more you can get into than just in a dumb little animated thing. But there is enough plot and stuff going on that it's actually an exciting movie too. There's other, violence and.
Can you tell us about the director guy you've partnered with? I don't know anything about him.
Yeah, Andrew Dragley. He runs.
Treglia, Treglia.
Yeah, I think I'm pronouncing that right. I've seen it in print. I don't think I've ever heard him because most people don't walk around saying their last name. But he was doing a thing down in Anarchapulco that what was it? Had democracy in the name, and it was funny because he started doing an interview with me, and the first thing was he said, "Well, we can agree that at least democracy is better than having kings, right?" I was like, "No, it's worse." And he was like, what? And it's funny because now he admits, yeah, it's worse. Didn't know it at the time. But he's been involved in a bunch of stuff. You can actually see his resume on the Indiegogo's campaign. It has
a little thing about him.
Has a list of a bunch of the things he's been involved in. And he's really cool. I don't think he was an anarchist very long ago. But we've talked a bunch, and he interviewed a bunch of people down at Anarchapulco, the last one. And, was learning things and thinking about things along the way. And we've had, we've had a bunch of several hour meetings with him now going over the plans and the visions of this. Oh, and incidentally, this is ours and Andrew's. We're it. No movie companies getting their tentacles into this.
That's important to note.
Because there is no situation and no amount of dollars that would convince me to hand over the script to some actual movie production company.
People can fund this all they want. Like, this could totally turn into somebody said, if people wanted to make this a $20 million movie, well, by all means, don't let me get in the way of that, but you're not having the screenplay and you're not telling us who's directing it. So that's the two caveats.
Final say on the script and the director and all that is ours. And that's really important because there's so many cool ideas that have just been watered down and turned into kind of pointless mush by Hollywood. And, even ones that still had a pretty good idea, like, V for Vendetta and stuff, like the people who wrote the comic book. What are you supposed to call them? The comic book is rude and insulting. Graphic novel. There we go. Apparently, we're not at all pleased with the movie version, in part because it made them into right-wing fascists when they were left-wing in the actual.
Which movie? Which movie are you talking about?
V for Vendetta.
V for Vendetta was the comic. The graphic novel.
I reached out to that guy to try and interview him. Apparently, he's an anarcho-communist, and you're right. He wasn't too happy with how they movie-tized it.
So people butcher stuff all over the place, and I expect them to do that with almost everything. But they're not doing it with this because it's just ours. And if it gets made and we make $0 off of it, oh well, we'll be happy that it was made. And I would rather make $0 off of it and have it be the exact message it should be than make $1 million and have it be some watered down, mushy, whatever.
We did get to know Andrew quite a bit through the last few months of planning and meeting with him. And part of learning, what you think of a director is also learning what their taste is in movies and what they think are good movies and things like that. So one of the things I love about Andrew is he's got the same care and attention to detail as far as you need a certain uniqueness and aesthetic to a movie. Like, for example, certain things that do well usually have like a niche community around them and following. They become like a cult classic in their own way. And it's because they have a visual uniqueness to the directing style that's pungent, along with this atmosphere that combines correctly with the score and the soundtrack to just create something that is unlike anything else. And Andrew really wants that aesthetic for this movie. He wants, every frame to matter and every frame to have everything positioned in the frame, and everything is substance and everything is there because it's supposed to be there. And it's done in a way that is aesthetically appealing, hard to ignore. And Larken gets to do the score because he's a composer.
Because now I have my dream studio, which is right over there.
So that's another reason why it's, just so many facets of this make it kind of a duh, but the whole thing is just coming together on every level. So it's just, we have the support of a big enough global community of liberty lovers. The money's in the community to certainly pull this off. The actors are out there sitting on their hands like, I've been told by governments I can't do anything and I need work. So there's really good actors and actresses out there that need work. They're not super famous Hollywood people, but they're good. As we can see, from other platforms like Hulu and Netflix, there's all these great actors and actresses out there that mainstream Hollywood never shows you. And so Andrew just knows enough people that, with his connections and with the liberty community backing us, we can't not do this.
Yeah. And I know he shares the vision of it and exactly what it's supposed to look like and stuff. And so, he's going to be the director. Once the screenplay is written, it's mostly up to him and other people. Yep. I'll probably be there for the shooting, sitting around and observing and stuff. But, I don't do that side of it, but I would not nearly let anybody else do anything with the script that I didn't trust to actually understand what the point is. And Andrew's talking about how we can basically make our own lane with this movie. Like, there's an opportunity for this sort of movie with this sort of message, like all the way daring to say this stuff that Hollywood just doesn't do. And now, with the technology that exists and crowdfunding and stuff, we can make it without the permission of a bunch of, power happy doofuses, like the power happy doofuses who control Facebook and YouTube and Hollywood. It's like, screw them. We can bypass all of them, make the message the way we want it to be, and get it out there the way we want it to be out there.
And the culture is so primed already. Our culture is so primed for the anti-authoritarian and the make your own lane thing, like The Matrix did well. Why? Because it made its own freaking lane. And V for Vendetta did well because it made its own lane, and it created this idea.
I think what you mean by make its own lane is just like have a original thought, which Hollywood can't seem to do in like 30 years. It's just like come up with a new story instead of just remaking old stuff and injecting your SJW nonsense into it. Oh my God, you're gonna get me ranting now. Yes, yeah.
Yes. Like another thing I told him, I said, think about another encouraging thing to think about is how well Firefly and Serenity. Do you know about them? That phenomenon, the show Firefly and the movie Serenity. How well they did after Firefly was canceled. Like the cancellation of a single season of a show, like turned into this cult following of the Firefly saga and the Serenity movie that blew up over the course of a decade and a half, following, instead of petering off because Fox canceled it. No, Fox canceled it and everybody went, oh my God, Firefly's amazing. And it ended up with this huge following. Once again, original, made its own lane. And of course, Fox cans it because it's actually good. Yeah. So it was just another
much
thing
like
I thought
happened
about.
to the original Star Trek series, right? They got canceled, and then it turned into a world phenomenon, right? Yeah.
Something that just occurred to me is there's a weird comparison to make, but most movies, this is less true recently, but most movies are so bad at making films.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Remco just said, well, I can't wait for the all-female remake of The Plantation. They did that with like the Ghostbusters, and they did that with something else recently. Like Hollywood will make 5 sequels of this, and it'll all be underrepresented classes of whatever. Anyway, sorry to interrupt. That was hilarious.
Probably not. There was no doubt left-leaning someone somewhere who commented, well, we shouldn't see color anymore, so you should just, because somebody said, hey, are there acting parts? And I said, well, most of them are going to be the black slaves because there aren't that many other characters in it. And she was basically saying, well, you should have them be all colors. And I was like, I'm not going to make it just ridiculously unrealistic to pretend we don't see color. So in other words, somebody suggested something kind of that ridiculous already, but yeah, no.
I'm sorry, I totally interrupted you. What were you saying before I interrupted you?
Oh, I know. The thing about most movies are so bad at making believable bad guys. Now, in recent years, they've tried harder and made more convincing bad guys where you actually get where they're coming from and the way they function. But it just occurred to me, even though the movies are nothing alike and the plots are nothing alike, like I think it's like the highest grossing R-rated movie like in the history of ever was Joker. And all that was the psychological development of a screwed up bad guy. And it was so compelling and so believable and so convincing that just showing, here's why this guy is screwed up, actually resonated with a ton of people. And in all the movies where there's like nasty king or nasty politician or even corruption, even when they show, oh, they're secretly doing nasty things, they don't really show all the way the mindset and the methodology and the mind control. And this is going to in a way that I've never seen anything else do it. I don't think anything else ever has done it. But when you can all the way show, like when a movie does do a good job of whether it's like a serial killer or whatever, and you all the way get what's going on, it has a lot more sort of creepy power to it from the audience instead of, oh, there's a guy running around with an axe killing people. It's sort of, oh, well, yeah, whatever, whoop-de-doo. But when you can really show something that is so just existentially creepy coming out of a human being, it's like, okay, I could imagine someone actually doing that and thinking that way and treating people that way. And to really show the designs they use and the methods they use to creep people out, I think people are going to love the character of Mr. Jones and realize he totally needs to frickin' die. We might have to make a sequel just to kill Mr. Jones because he's so friggin' evil.
Yeah.
But that opportunity to be able to show the true nature of how nasty people really function, not guy running around with an axe and not, comic book villain cackling maniacally, but how they really do what they do, the historical tyrants, I think that character by itself is going to be the most powerful thing in the whole thing, and informing people and getting them to see, wow, that would work. There can be people like that. That's what they would do. It would work, and it would work on me. And that's the main thing I want the viewer to notice is, holy crap, if I was one of those slaves, I would have fallen for it too.
I would have been the one cheering for Samuel as he was being killed. Yeah. And that's going to be the thing that we lead people up to, which is going to be really uncomfortable, because it is like that Trojan horse, except most movies, the goal is to leave the person in the audience at least feeling some form of payoff and good. And our goal is to be like, you think this is going to be such a great movie, and you're super into it, and you are even enjoying it the whole time. And then by the end of it, you're like,
I'm the bad guy. But we do throw in a happy ending, but basically the viewer's going to go, there was a happy ending in spite of what I would have done if I was there. Not, I would have been there to save the day, as I would have been there and screwed things up. But luckily, there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Also, this, I hear people thinking out there, like, that are watching this, you know, well, how is this different from something like Game of Thrones or House of Cards? Because those two things both, you know, show the mindset of authority from behind the scenes and show how ugly it is. And even go into the philosophy using the evil people a little bit and all that. And it's like, well, Game of Thrones does the thing of giving first world Americans an out by making that like, well, yeah, but that's extra messed up because, you know, it's those people with the royalty and the incest, and we don't do kings and queens. You know, our constitutional republic is modern and better than all that. So like the Game of Thrones thing, yes, it takes the glamorization that Disney put into royalty out, and that's great. It doesn't really tie it right into the American system. The other thing is House of Cards and other shows like that are actually great at showing how people within this messed up world system, how they think. But notice that often those shows focus on these corrupt individuals and this thing they're really doing, but it never really makes it actually totally clear that this system comes from this mindset. Right. And this mindset created this system on purpose. And that never gets really spelled out in a way that people go, oh, I get it. Like the actual thing I live, you know, under, or I've been thinking is there as my savior or helper this whole time, is made up of literally this mindset, and it can't be good. It never has been.
And the main difference is it doesn't show, like those things will show like one example of corruption or some sneaky thing he did. It doesn't show the whole comprehensive agenda and the entire approach of the entire structure coming from this same mentality.
So this really does make it.
I'm like wargaming the movie in my head now. What if like the original plantation owner, like, you know, starts out as just sort of an unthinking slave owner that thinks it's okay because that's how he was raised. But then through the process of seeing these slaves sort of get duped not by the whip, but by the same tricks that would and did work on him in terms of the government, starts to realize that the slaves are people too, and sort of like wakes up out of his slave owning mindset. Anyway, this movie is going to be so cool no matter what you do with it, and I don't want to spoil it. So
it'll be awesome. There is a Mrs. Jones in it that has a brief part. But we make her become sympathetic along the way to the slaves, and when she happens to overhear little bits and pieces of them talking, going, "Ooh, this is creepy." Like, I'd rather them be treated like animals because this makes it even creepier.
Yeah,
to manipulate them this way.
Okay, let me get to some audience questions, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Let's see. Stephen Loeffler asks, "Is it too late to read your book with the current state of the union?" I'm assuming he means
the Iron Web.
Iron Web. Okay, all right.
That's my guess of what he means.
Okay,
I don't know. It exists on Amazon now. Somebody else paid to print it. They're actually selling it, but hard copy is on Amazon. Ebook is on Amazon too. I'm guessing that's what he means because
he means the most dangerous superstition, because that's your most talked about book. Maybe does he mean like
I think it means the speech at the end of Iron Web, but I don't really know.
We don't know what you mean, Stephen. Type more words if you want us to know what you mean. All right.
Voluntary one of them, yes. Those both exist.
Voluntary Dan asks, if you guys don't meet the goal, will you be paying for it out of pocket, and will people still be able to donate? If so, how, I think?
I don't friggin' have a pocket with that. It basically, the smaller the budget gets, the harder we cut corners and make do with what we have. The way it's going now, I'm confident that we can do it the way we really think it needs to be done. But I mean,
there isn't a time limit, so
there isn't a time limit, so we can extend stuff.
Yeah.
If nobody gave another $1, first of all, that would be sort of surprising and rude. We'd still find a way to do the best we can with like 24 grand, which would be kind of lame. But we will. It's at this point, I'm confident enough to say it's going to friggin' happen. At this point, it's just a matter of how good it's going to look based on what resources we have to work with. But one way or another, like Andrew is determined to make this happen, whether we make $1 off of it or not, and we're determined to make it happen, whether we make $1 off of it or not. So one way or another, it's going to happen. It'll look a whole lot better if we have the resources, to get good people and to get. He already has a award-winning sound editor lined up and all sorts of fun stuff. But we're going to friggin' make it happen one way or another. I can't pay for it out of pocket because there's nothing in my pocket at the moment.
There's no pocket. Okay, got it. Take the Ride says, will this be the story of Jesus repeated? Does Larken think humanity keeps repeating the same mistakes over and over?
There, in a lot of ways, yes. And there's actually references to that in the script. The fact that, like, by the narrator and Mr. Smith, there are hints about, like, this is a cycle that goes over and over again. It will kind of be obvious to a lot of people that there's sort of a parallel to the Jesus thing while Samuel's being whipped to death. And to me, I think it will be devastating to a bunch of self-described Christians to realize, ooh, I would have been in the crowd. And to realize that, just like today, if there was a Jesus and he came back, a lot of Christians would be first in line to crucify him. But whether somebody's, notices the parallel or cares about religion or not, I think it's going to have that same devastating effect on a lot of people when they realize, I can't put myself in the shoes of the actual good guys in this. I wouldn't have dared to do that. I would have been in the crowd going along with it, and I would have fallen for the BS. And it's sort of a mean thing to do, but we know it works because, speaking of the Iron Web, when somebody made the video, they labeled it "Message to the Voting Cattle," and I was saying, I'm not sure you should do that because that's like blunt and in your face, and it starts off as rude as it can be and then runs them over with a truck. And I was like, I'm not sure anybody's going to like that. Tons of people liked it, and a bunch of people actually commented under that they felt shame and guilt listening to it because they knew it was true about them. And I was like, holy smokes, to have people, first of all, feel that, and second of all, dare to publicly post that I felt bad because this thing guilt tripped me and it was right to do so.
Yep.
And I think the Jones Plantation is going to do that 100-fold over what that little speech does.
And I do want to say that when we were talking before about getting excited about where this thing could go, I don't want to pretend that higher, bigger name actors are, just, a big dream and impossible to get to, because let's just remember that this is the internet. So, to not limit myself here, if anybody else out there is actually on speaking terms with good old Wesley or Woody, I mean,
who are friends
feel
with
free to, connect screenplay guy.
That's the word along.
With one of them, because the screenplay is going to be done first and quickly, and that matters. And you never know who knows who out there. And we did find out we have a friend,
no name
something. No, connection to.
We do have a second degree connection.
Third degree connection to Woody, so it's not impossible.
Right.
But it's one of those things that I don't want to shut off the universe of possibility. If it's possible, bring it, universe. Bring.
And it's why we're
actors to
frantically working to finish the script, because an actor is going to want to see an actual script.
Right. The screenplay matters first.
And that's well underway.
All right. Voluntary Dan asks, will Mr. Jones have a family?
He has a wife. I don't think they have any children. The wife plays a little bit of a part in it. Mr. Johnson, his cousin, he's a cousin. I guess he counts as family.
Worth mentioning, we're going to tie in so many clever things, as we were saying, about modern stuff going on, how we know the world works, into this. There will be a hint at the problem. There will be a very obvious, but there will be a dark scene that definitely alludes to the slave plantation owner being a
sexual predator,
possibly. So it will be definitely even tying in that.
I don't know what that relates to in real life. I don't know.
Not at all.
Will there be pizza on the tables? No. What time period will it be set in?
I'm thinking about 1850, and the reason I want to do that is because I may actually make an indirect reference to Karl Marx without mentioning his name.
Okay. All right. Jesse says, will this movie be a rated R horror film?
It will be rated R because you can't make a PG-13 version of this. It's not going to be all that gory or visually horrible. I mean, you have somebody's whipped to death, so it's not exactly pleasant.
But it's not going to be Tarantino.
We're not going to Tarantino the screen with blood for an hour and a half in a row.
I like how that's a verb now. Okay, all right.
There are a number of other deaths in.
Don't get me wrong. I love Tarantino. Just
a little over the top.
He's got an audience, and we would shut out a lot of people if we went Tarantino on this.
We're not going to go Tarantino, but yes, R.
Jose asks, how close are you to funding the whole budget to shoot? We showed the crowdfunding thing earlier. I think they're coming up on $26K, which I'll let you answer it. I won't try and answer it for you.
24. I think shooting it maybe between, including the cost of cast. Production, we basically have down pre-production and production, I think, adds to 50, but then the cast was another 25. That's really flexible because it depends on who's doing it for free and what we're spending on who. So somewhere between 50 and 75 grand, we can shoot the whole thing. Can't edit it. Need more for that.
Yeah.
But basically, if we're halfway to the budget to 125, I think we can actually get the whole thing in the can.
Okay.
But this is also why it's good that we don't have a limit on the budget, because I have kind of, I try to have positive non-attachment to a positive expectation without any attachment to any specific expectation of the universe is how I've learned it works best to have things. So just a positive expectation of whatever's the biggest thing out there that could possibly happen, the best thing I could imagine for this thing. Let it be if it can be possible. And I kind of see the connections this Liberty community has built all over the world, and I feel like this is going to get funded beyond the goal. That's what I feel, and I'm putting it out there now to say that, so that if anybody can refer back to this video later, they can be like, hey, look, she called it.
But if we get 50 grand, we're shooting it. We're probably shooting it for, even if it was less than that. But that's,
okay. All right. Good to see James Freeman in the chat. Hey, sir. Good to see you. Ancap Gamer from Twitch. He is an anarcho-capitalist gamer who live streams his gaming. He does a lot of VR gaming on Twitch. If you're into that stuff, go check him out. I have done VR gaming with him. I think he's playing No Man's Sky right now. Good stuff. Good to see you. Thanks for hosting this show on your channel. I appreciate it, NCAP. That's awesome. Okay, we have a few questions left, and then we'll wrap up. Voluntary Dan asks, will the credits song be You Gotta Vote? Oh, that's probably not it.
No,
it's probably not the play.
Not exactly. We do want to ask, in fact, I'll ask him here in the most rude, inappropriate way possible. I want to send Jordan Page a message because I want to see if he's interested in doing it.
Hey, Jordan, if you're watching this is us contacting you instead of just directly messaging you. We would like to use some of your music.
And as it happens, like Freedom Message or Message of Freedom, almost exactly fits the plot already.
Yeah.
But if he wants to do a new one, I want him to
I advise listening to Jordan Page's Liberty album. He is on Spotify. You can find him there.
Running a commercial.
No, I'm just saying listen to it and tell me that some of those songs wouldn't be perfect for some of the credits and parts of this movie.
The sound and feel is so.
Well, we are pleased. We are proud to be your telephone. So I hope he got your message and responds. Grill K asks, when do you expect the movie will be completed and out for the public to watch, and where will we be able to see it?
The goal is, I believe, November of next year, not 1 month from now. November of next year. The goal is to, our current goal, again, depending on budget and everything, is to run it in maybe 6 or 7 cities across the country in actual theaters before it's anywhere else. And have us be at them, and then certain donors beyond a certain amount, it says this on the perks and the Indiegogo thing, will like hang out with them afterwards and do a dinner and stuff. And so we actually have showings of it in theaters, and then it'll be released. I don't know the details of that. Andrew is much more familiar of the ways you release things into, like, something like Netflix comes last. That's like after you show it and you run it on your own platform. If you demonstrate that, look, lots of people like this and we've gotten, enough mileage out of it, then we might sell it to Netflix or something. But we ain't starting there. We're controlling it. But we do want to have
Netflix?
Live show.
Yeah, probably don't get your hopes up. I mean, maybe. Netflix?
I don't know. Netflix is a weird platform because they're sort of schizophrenic. Like, they allow some sketchy, weird stuff on their platform, and then they also allow some really subversive, anti-authoritarian stuff on their platform. So, yeah. I mean,
whatever the platform is.
It's more, I think it's better to, what we want to do really, though, is to do it right as far as have a launch where we really get the community spreading it and getting it out there organically enough that you got this niche following, and ideally you have platforms coming to you and saying, we want your movie on our platform.
But you have to prove, that there's interest in it to do that. But first of all, we wanted to go all old school and actually show it in theaters and in a number of different cities.
I'm excited if theaters still exist in a year. Default position asks, are you concerned that the powers that be will try to stop the production of this film like it's been speculated that they played a role in killing the production of Gray State?
Gray State.
No.
Yeah.
I can say why.
My basic attitude is I'm really easy to kill, and if they want me to shut up, then they should kill me. I'm not going to function as if they're going to do that. I'm not going to censor myself because they might do that, because then I've just, did their job for them. I don't think, something like this. No. I will say I have no suicidal thoughts. I'm not planning on shooting myself in the back 10 times and throwing myself in a bag in a river. For the record.
I am also not planning on showing up randomly with a bullet in me anywhere. So if anybody locates my body with a bullet in it somewhere, I didn't put that
probably
there. You didn't do it?
Saying.
Okay. All right.
But I will say that there's a big difference between making a film and being loud about the fact that you're making a film that is calling out without showing it in an artistic fictional sense, but just directly calling out all, government, and then spelling out, voluntarism for people, which is what Gray State was doing. There's a difference between doing that and being on the cusp of and way too open about the fact that you're about to get a multi-million-dollar budget, and you're being loud about the fact that you're about to get hit with millions of dollars to make this thing that's just going to literally be like an open fist to the state. That's a little bit different than what we're doing, which is, something that it's like, oh, okay, well, that might go over some people's heads, and they still have to have the marketing budget for that, and it's not going to convince that many people. It's easy for them to overlook us and think it's not a problem.
Yeah, I'm not going to friggin' worry about it, even though, like I said, I'm really easy to kill. I'm not going to worry about it. Besides, as soon as the screenplay is done, they can off me, and the movie would still happen anyway.
I have an NSA phone.
Off Andrew. So should we give them a list of who they have to off to make the movie not? Maybe not.
They can come get us anytime they want. I figure if I'm enough of a threat, they'll do that next week or whatever.
If they were going to off me, they probably should have done it 20 years ago, because now it would up book sales. It would be awesome.
For anyone who thinks we live in fear, we don't. We are literally this flippant about them, they, all the time. We're not even remotely afraid of them. And then on top of that, actually, one of our running jokes is that if they killed you, if they really understand power and the whole art of war, they know that if they killed you now, that would just, Larken's book is in like 40 different countries.
Video views would go through the roof.
It would just so backfire. So we have this running joke that he totally does have federal stalkers, but that's because they're protecting him. They're like, don't let that guy die, because everyone's going to blame it on us. So we joke that, like, if anything, we've got feds like looking out for us, and things will go better for us because we have federal protectors.
Admit it, if I accidentally fell off a cliff, there's a lot of people who would say, no, he was totally killed. So there's probably people like with safety nets under the cliffs. Don't let them die. They're going to blame us.
Wow.
Okay.
What a world. What a world.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
No, that's hilarious. Okay, and terrible and tragic and creepy. Okay, so
Yeah.
number one, go to theRosechannel.com to support Larken. You can subscribe. He has some subscription options there where you can get access to most every word he's ever spoken. Then you have the link in the description to the Indiegogo campaign for the movie. You also have the link in the description to go to the support page for this channel. If you like what you're seeing here on Anarchast, you want to see more of it, you want to get access to all the perks of not only this channel, but also Disenthrall, where we have a lot of exclusive content and shows and wallpapers and audiobook type rewards and stuff for our supporters. You can find that all there, link in the description. Also, disenthrall.me/support, disenthrall.me/platforms if you want to see all the places that we publish to, because you're about to stop seeing full-length content, probably even on this Anarchast channel. You're going to see it probably mostly on Library, and we're going to live stream primarily to Flote, Flote, from now on. So any other updates from you, Larken, before we go?
I think that's. Oh, I should say, given the current spirit of shutting people up all over the place, I'm finally getting my butt together and have an email list that's free that people can get on if they want to. If you go to therosechannel.com at the very top, you can get added to the email list for free. So that if I magically disappear off of YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and everywhere else, I'll still be able to keep in touch.
One more thing before we go. We have been asked this every interview, so I know if somebody hasn't typed it already, they will ask it. They say, is the mirror still in the works? The short answer is always yes. And the reason that it isn't a thing is because it's a monstrous project that would normally take multiple dozens and dozens of people to work on, and it isn't a thing that has any monetary return on investment, so other things have to fund it because it's going to be given away to the world for free. So incidentally, we fund the Jones Plantation, and then it gets filmed, and Larken can be working on the mirror using the funding that comes from the Jones Plantation too, because in other words, it buys us the time to work on the mirror. He doesn't have to be working on the Jones Plantation movie once he's done with the main part that he does.
Right.
So
and if the movie does well, it may fund the making of the mirror, which is then given away to the whole world for free as soon as it's
right. Done. So
all
that's
right.
the answer.
Yeah.
A lot of news this month, and we have an Acapulco probably coming back now, and we've got all kinds of cool stuff going on. More info on all that probably in the near future. Guys, thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for telling me about your project. Thanks for doing what you do. Guys in the audience and the questions and the comments, thanks for hanging out. Hilarious stuff. And we will see you guys next time.
Peace.
Yeah.